Tesla, on a good day, is like $100 to $200 billion company. And this is just a tip of the iceberg of all the issues with this company and what Elon Musk has in store for it. Let's start right here. Where we are today, on my birthday. Yes, that's how much it grinds my gears. I was like, 10 o'clock, who cares? I'm gonna record this. So, as of right now, January 30th, happy birthday to me. We are at $4.30 per share. And we are, what is our market cap? Where's our market cap? 1.5, 1.35. Sure, fluctuates a little bit. Now, this is what they will tell you, like this is a fair price. I decided, let's take a look at it on the fundamentals level. For those of you who were born before or who've, got into the stock investment before the fundamentals became an absolute thing that no one else talks about, fundamentals is your idea that you pick one or two key metrics that you think really well indicates the performance of the company or how well it is managed. And then you look at the comparables with it versus the market, versus the competitors, maybe some sort of like preconceived ratios that people usually use in the valuations of the company for the past like 10 acquisitions. And you say, multiply that metric by that multiple, and this is our valuation, right? And this is what's called, in my opinion, like fundamentals. You look at how the company performs, you evaluate it based on this. No noise. And from there, I decided to look at it and say, okay, we have our total revenue, right, for Tesla based on the report that came out like a day or two ago, right? We have our EBITDA, and we have our non-GAAP net income. We'll give them a little bit of a grace, right? I think GAAP net income was more like 4 billion. So there are a few ways you can look at it. One of the ways I decided to look at it, okay, let's pull our comparables to next big car manufacturer. And I know the argument, they're not purely a car manufacturer, they do all of, we'll get to this. For now, for giggles. If you look at someone like Toyota, it's 10 times the earnings. You take the earnings, right? You multiply by like 10, net income. You multiply by 10, you get to 59 billion. Way far away from 1.5. Sure, let's go and say, let's look at the autos on average. Like, let's see some companies maybe performing and managing their business better than Toyota. So you can go and look at 7 times the EBITDA. Okay, your EBITDA is 14.6 times 7, you're above 100 billion. Cool. Again, you're still at like $37 per share, so $400 less than where it's trading today. And then from there on out, you can look and stop being more aggressive and say, maybe we'll look at S&P average, which again includes a lot of overvalued companies, right? And so I'm pretty sure I also did not even exclude Tesla. I don't think I excluded the Tesla from this, so it's definitely exaggerated, but sure, whatever. We're going to be generous. 22 times earnings, you're at $129 billion in valuation. And you can continue kind of like going from there and say, maybe it's a quality corporation with good profitability. We're going to look at the sales versus the EBITDA or the earnings. You're still at like 237. And then you're really going to get generous and say, you know what? Let's forget for a second about the fact that all these VCs and a lot of these private equity companies and other investors who are investing in these tech companies, they're completely, forgot about fundamentals and they're all thinking about the fact that this company is going to take over the entire market and then give them crazy valuations. Sure, we're going to take 18 times the EBITDA. And we're still at like 263. So there's this massive gap in terms of where the valuation is. And you can say, right, like if you look at this, like again, we'll take a look at it in a second a little bit more. But if you take a look at the current valuation where we are versus this 1.5, 1.35 billion, whatever, I'm rounding it up, I guess. Where is it coming from? And you can say it's all about the future. And there's so many great things that they're building. And I'd like to remind you, we've been promised that future by this company for quite a while. We've been promised coast-to-coast, fully self-driving car in 2017. It's 2026. We've been promised million of robotaxis in 2020. It's 2026. We've been promised the fact that they're going to be appreciating in cost because of the fact that you'll be able to send that car driving on its own, doing the Uber, Lyft kind of thingy, and you're going to make so much money on it in 2019. It's 2026, and I promise you it's not 100 to 200K on a resale. It's like if you get 50 to 60, you're probably going to be in good shape for some of these cars. Then, infamous Roadster that MKBHD and the rest of the world are waiting. We've been promised it to launch very closely in the next 4 years in 2015. 2015 plus 4 does not equal 2026 the way my math works. We're going to look and say, hey, electric cars will be 25K in 2023, promised to us in 2021. That's not how much you're going to buy the car for. Now, Maybe they are going to expand in the commercial side of business and they're going to work with all these Walmarts, Targets of the world. They're going to send the semi-trucks for Carrefour all over Europe. Promised in 2017 to be launched in 2019. It's 2026. Cybertruck. I even had $100 on a pre-order. Yes, I'll admit it because I was curious. 39K, 40K, I was like, sure, it's actually very comparable to the other cars and I can take my kids everywhere and it's going to be so heavy and bulletproof. It definitely wasn't bulletproof. That wasn't a bullet. That was a baseball, if I recall correctly, or like steel ball that was thrown at it. At 39, I promise you, we did not got the car in 2021, and you definitely cannot buy it for 40K then or right now. And we'll get to the compensation in a second. This is the track record of the people in charge, of the person in charge that we're currently talking about, and this is a track history. So whenever you start talking about the fact that like, oh, but this premium is about the fact that they're going to do all these cool things, which again, we're going to talk about some of the cool things that they mentioned. You need to realize that the track record shows that we should not be building it in at 100% guarantee. And this is what some valuators of this stock do. But in my opinion, something else is happening here. When you look at this gap, right, from like this 60 to $200 billion valuation based on the actual fundamentals, how it should be done, call me old, I don't know, versus this, I really think it's just Elon Musk premium. This is what you're getting from the Elon Musk presence and his marketing, his ability to create this almost like a cult following. And I'll be honest, like from SpaceX, achievements, I even kind of like had a very positive opinion about the guy until a certain time when you start catching the pattern. Like before you see the pattern, you see, hey, this smart dude, he's doing this interesting things about the company. Sure, I'll respect him. Like I'm curious about what he does. I'll speak positive of him. But then even personality, political side, political things aside, you just look at the business and you look at this track record of things never being done. You just realize he's full of it. Like he's full of it. He's going to say anything to pump that stock price up. And this is what they realized that he's good at. And this is where, when we were talking about the fact that he got this $1 trillion package, again, there's a lot of performance metrics associated with it. He need to like sell crap ton of robots and crap ton of other things. You can ask and say like, how the hell would he be, what they be willing to pay him this much? It's because this is what he technically is worth. Like again, you take this down to 1.3, right? With the estimate based on the current market cap of 1.35 as of like whatever 10 minutes ago when I checked it, it's about 1.1 billion. Sure, that's exactly his compensation. And the reason being is that if you look at some of these owners, right, like all of these companies stand to gain a lot. Like if you look at the top 4 or 5, right, I pulled here like Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, Geode Capital, I don't know how they pronounce it. This is billions. So each one of their stake this is how much it's worth. So like if this goes away, for example, right, like people stop believing all the BS that Elon Musk is pushing, it burns like 75% or so of the stock. So they will lose billions upon billions of dollars. And we're forgetting about the board, who also owns like millions to probably low billion plus of the stock. All of those people will lose massive amounts of money. So it's in their best interest to keep this dude focused and give him this crazy compensation package just to keep this thing long enough until their options vest and they can sell all of their stock and hopefully maximize their returns from that perspective. And then who cares? The company can crash and burn. They made billions of dollars, right? And this is where it kind of like it also fascinates me, because I'll make a small tangent where the fascinating thing about this $1 trillion package was, if a dude like me plays games all the time, messes around with politics, goes, hangs out with his friends, does pretty much nothing for his company, pink slip immediately. Dude like him does all of this, gets $1 trillion package. He needs to stay focused, so we need to pay him more because he wasn't feeling inspired enough, motivated enough, incentivized enough to focus on our company and not his friend Donald Trump, right? The reason being, again, I'll keep coming back to the fact that the reason being is just the fact that without him, without his focus, they're losing this much of a company, because then people will be looking more realistically at the company and really getting closer to fundamentals, even if it's not 200 billion, even if it's a half a trillion company. it's still losing like 66% of all of this money. So it's a lot of money for all of these people. So of course they're going to vote and say, yes, we're going to have to give them all of this. And so you might ask from here, like, okay, they did this. Is the company doing better? Well, not really, because now they're talking about the fact that they're going to discontinue two of their, in my opinion, probably better looking models compared to everything else, like Model X and Model S, that are more expensive. People are not buying them as much, right? Elon Musk alienated a bunch of Tesla community, Tesla fans across the United States and Europe. China is biting at the ankles, not even at the ankles at this point. They're like biting at the shoulder because they're pretty much on equal level, in my opinion, when it comes to the impact that they're making. And they're, I think, way above when it comes to the price to value of the car. Because if you look at BYD and some of these other cars, they're way better cars, better quality, better tools inside, better interesting gadgets and things like this for the price that you're paying for those cars. Obviously, we cannot get them here. Good luck to Canada. They're getting a little bit of extra of them. But the whole point is that they're now saying, hey, we're gonna move all of this towards the robots, right? And the robots, like this Optimus guys, gals, I don't know, that they're basically trying to build, they're yet to show this thing in action without actual human controlling them, besides maybe just walking back and forth and pacing and doing some very basic motions that, Boston Robotics robot were able to do, I don't know, 10 years ago, probably. In my opinion, they're not better than Chuck E. Cheese and animatronics. Like, honestly, like this is the quality of the robot that they currently have. And then you might ask, but TohirT, why would then they be so focused on saying like, we're gonna tear down parts of factory, convert it to actually building all of this? In my opinion, and this is pure speculation, and this is where I also need to remind you that I don't hold Tesla stock, I don't hold Tesla like short options or anything like this. It just grinds my gears, and we'll talk about a little bit more about what exactly among all the things that I've discussed so far. But the idea here is, if you haven't caught the kind of like the wind already, Elon Musk realized that he can talk up the price from the fundamentals level to like 7x by just being a good marketer and promising this blissful future that he just keeps pushing away and does not deliver. But people, at least right now, don't care enough. So they just keep looking at him and getting this like, rose-colored glasses, 10 focal length, just so that they can go and hopefully make a little bit more money off of that stock. So in my opinion, all of this, allegedly, is really just to keep making those promises. Cars are not selling, right? I didn't pull up the metrics, but the sales are like crazy. They're like down across like Europe, 40-50%. They're down in United States, also like 40-60%. There's like ridiculous numbers. So basically they're barely selling any cars right now. So by discontinuing the two of the most expensive cars that probably right now sell the least because people cannot just afford them at this point, they can tell a different story. They no longer can tell, they no longer have to tell to the investors and the market that, hey, we cannot sell these cars. Like, we don't produce them. We just produce the cheapest ones that at least kind of barely moving the market right now between Y and the 3 model. So they're going to keep pushing that story, and then they're going to keep promising robotaxis. They're going to keep promising that just wait. In the next couple of years, we're going to have these robots helping every single person. Everywhere, in every household, we're going to have 2 of the Optimus robots, right? Like, that's going to be the stories that they're going to be telling you for the next 3 to 4 years, just to keep pumping that stock up high enough, just again, to keep it vesting, keep it selling, keep making money, while the investors are there and like, crossing the fingers and hoping that things like this will come to fruition. But again, we just talk about the talk track. Things that have been promised to us like almost 10 years ago now for some of these things yet to happen. And they're going to keep promising until people stop believing all of this BS. So this is the whole point why they're trying to switch the tracks and talk about this futuristic product, because then they know that they can at least buy another like 3 to 5 years of promises. And they can just keep saying, keep doing the demo once a year, show this robot doing one extra thing. But you need to realize it's like, let's even talk about technology for a second, right? Like, they yet to do full self-driving cars in regular streets, right? And there's a lot of technological challenges, the fact that they're using cameras versus LiDARs, right? Like blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of things and a lot better creators who know a lot more about those things that you can check out and understand the differences and why like Waymo is much better than Tesla when it comes to self-driving right now because of all technologies. But also you need to realize a few things. You can start saying, oh, but these Optimus robots are great for commercial purposes. Not really. When it comes to like manufacturing, assembly, those kind of things, purpose-built, single-arm robots, right? Like they're way better than bipedal. Bipedal robots are actually inefficient. Like this whole body structure, just because it's familiar to us, it doesn't mean it's efficient for the manufacturing. Purpose-built machines on the conveyors, sitting side by side, they're much better, much more functional, a lot less hard to operate. Like you don't need to have the whole Optimus autonomous robot moving through the factory. Just build normal machines and they're going to do a much better job. They're going to be easier to maintain. They're going to be cheaper. That's one. Then you can say, oh, no, it's not a commercial purpose. It's going to be like fire rescue and whatnot. Honestly, those dogs from Boston Robot, much better because again, quadrupedal robots are much better in navigating some of these like, uneven terrains and different kind of like dangerous environments, and they can crawl into things. Again, bipedal function is not the best function for those. So again, you stand corrected. Finally, you can say it's a personal use case. Like we need helpers. They're going to help the retirees. They're going to help someone else. They're going to help me at home to take care of my kitchen while I'm recording a video, right? Like, again, technology is not there yet. They yet to be able to send the car safely down the streets without it crashing into anything. Imagine the levels of complexity, triple, quadruple, 10x, I don't know, probably like 100x when it comes to the fact that on the roads, at least you have a lot more what you would call like uniformity, right? Like the roads kind of like the same, the markings usually the same, at least in this, say, a country like United States. The road signs are standardized. Our houses are not. How your house looks and what kind of things there are and the kids and the pets and everything else going on and the tasks and the height of different things and where you put the cups and where you could put the plates and what do you do. Those kind of things are so much more variable that it will take them ages to be able to be at the place where those things can actually work. Even the other company, and I'm forgetting, I should have pulled them up, that build essentially the robot and they're saying, hey, you can order it for 30K, but for the first users, it's actually going to be a human being controlling those robots remotely and learning. They're going to probably do the same thing and they're going to say like, hey, buy this robot, but it's going to be some dude controlling it like they were controlling in all the demos, right? All of the demos when you saw Optimus robots working, those were not real robots functioning. Those were people controlling them through like Apple Vision or whatever they were using. So you have all of this going on and those promises going to keep coming and they're not going to come to fruition and it's all going to be in the name of that vesting schedule. This is my opinion. But even that gets even more interesting because Tesla started to invest in other Elon Musk companies. Yes, and I know that what you're thinking about, and it's even get better from there. But right now they started with sending $2 billion to XAI. And if you're not familiar with XAI, XAI is essentially the parent company now of Twitter, and technically that's their AI company that they've been pumping cash in and burning through cash without necessarily building anything more sophisticated than a Grok. The funniest thing, and also side note, shareholders actually did not approve this. They rejected it back in like I think November or December last year when it was put up to vote. They said, screw it, we're still going to do it because Elon Musk owns, he's majority owner, and we need to pump some money into this company. Now, there's more conversations about the fact that they're actually maybe talking about SpaceX buying either Tesla or XAI or maybe both. And then you're going to be asking like, why would SpaceX, which sends rockets to space, buy an AI company or a car company? And the whole conversation is really targeted towards the fact that SpaceX is the best one position for the IPO. Tesla is already public, we already know the information, and it's not good, so you kind of need to get rid of it or hide it, obscure it in some way. XAI burning through cash barely makes any money. Twitter barely makes any money. He like alienated all the advertisers, so you cannot send that company public yet because people are going to see all of this. Your next best thing, SpaceX. And SpaceX doing pretty well, great company, still doing a lot of interesting, cool things. They can potentially go for this IPO. At 1 trillion may sound like a crazy IPO, but I actually think it's okay. Like, we need to look at actual, financial performance of this company, but for the type of things that they're doing and how unique this company is, okay, let's give them this. But now what you can do, if you start putting those companies into each other and into SpaceX, you can not only obscure lack of performance for other companies, you can also take advantage of this cash injection that's going to come through IPO. And of course, yes, Elon Musk is like talking there like, hey, we're going to have some, where was it? Sorry, this one. We're going to have some, space-based AI data centers. And that's what we're going to do it because XAI will build data centers and it's going to be in space, built by SpaceX. The thing is, brother, we barely can support and build these things, the data centers on the land. There's barely enough electricity. People don't want them. It's very expensive to manufacture. And you're right now talking about the fact that you're going to build a data center in space. The power capacity, all the things that you need to construct, something like this have never been done before. The connectivity back and all those things and latency that you're going to introduce. Like, we're like a good decade at least before we see a couple of server racks out there floating somewhere in space. So another BS promise that they're going to try to shove down investors' faces just so that they can keep telling them that story and keep that vesting clock going. But the reason why I brought up this also visual was because I wanted to talk about the fact that this is not the first time that they're doing it, right? Like, this whole conversation about SpaceX acquiring Tesla and XAI, they already have done it with Twitter, where they rolled Twitter into XAI. And the way you can kind of like think about it is that, of course, I've mentioned cash injection is a great thing when it comes to the company like SpaceX or any other company that goes public. The other reason, there's like three good reasons to go public, right? One is a cash injection. The other one is like letting your investors exit through the cash injection, right? They can put their stock, their options up in price, your employees, your investors, and can get some return. The third one, not frequently spoken about and not considered, but it's actually you getting a currency. You're getting a new currency you can use to make transactions, because a company like SpaceX needs all the cash that they can get because space development is very expensive, right? And especially as a public company, it's going to be hard for them to do this. Tesla, they have some cash. They have I think 30 billion or 13 billion, something like this on their balance sheet. So they have some money, but it's nothing if you're, say, looking at XAI, which I think burns through 15 billion every quarter, or at least in the last couple of quarters. That's what's been reported that they've burned through. So they're not making any money. So you have two companies that pretty much burning cash or barely making any money, and you have SpaceX that needs as much money as possible. So you cannot really transact and acquire each other. But if you go and you declare the fact that, they come and they're going through the merger, and you can use that stock to essentially create, to some extent, the perception, to some extent, the reality of exchange of value for the investors, and say hey, I'm not hiding and obscuring all these companies that kind of starting to merge into each other. I'm actually using this currency from the SpaceX and paying for all of this to all the other investors, same way when they were paying to the investors who invested in Twitter by merging it into the XI, by giving them the shares of XAI, right? And now you basically keep passing this along and doing the same thing with SpaceX because you're using those stock as currency to make it seem like, hey, you're returning money to those investors, but in reality you're just moving money from one pocket to another, and the money doesn't really even exist right now. As I was looking at all of this, what it reminded me of is Russian matryoshka, or nesting doll, right? Because if you're gonna consider, and I think that's pretty much what they had Twitter sitting on its own, rolled into XAI. Now they're thinking about rolling it into Tesla and roll it into the SpaceX. That's at the end of the day what they're trying to do. They're building this freaking nesting doll of companies to obscure as much as possible, and again, buy themselves more time for that vesting schedule. And this is why it grinds my gears, because it has nothing to do with true shareholder value for you and me, if say we own the stock, in which again, I don't own the stock, right? It's really about the fact that as a CEO who owns 13.5% of the company, and how much he owns of SpaceX and how much he owns of XAI, you want that number to keep going up. So you need to create as much of financial engineering as possible to make it happen. You have those top investors like BlackRock, like Vanguard, like some of the other investors who invest in them. And those founders, they prioritize returning the investment to them. Sometimes it can be based on just how the cap table is structured, and there's preferred liquidation orders, right? Which means certain investors negotiate the fact that in case of liquidation, acquisition, something like this, we're the first ones to get paid. So it can be just legally already documented, but it also, even if it's not, as a founder, if you're liquidating or selling the company, paying back your investors makes sense, because you will have higher chances of them coming back and funding your next venture and buying into your next idea, so you can keep that wheel spinning as much as possible. So you're really focused on them, you're really focused on your own pocket, your board of directors who are approving your $1 trillion package. You can give to whatever about regular retail investor. All those people who are going to be potentially loud in the comment section of this video about how this is an amazing company, this is a genius plan, TohirT, you're an idiot, and Elon Musk is a genius. But in reality, all of this is just financial engineering to try and set the stage for as much of runway to keep making those fake promises and keep promising that just wait and imagine there's gonna be the future where we're gonna build this amazing company and the robots will be everywhere, cars will be driving themselves, data centers will be in space, and we're all gonna be rich. My performance is just a little bit worse than what you're seeing by that individual on stage every time for the investors. And that's what grinds my gears. I'm sorry. That grinds my gears enough that I had another video. Actually, I was planning to take the time off for the birthday, and I was like, yeah, that's it. I recorded 2 videos on purpose in advance so I can chill and not record anything. But then I saw it and I was like, you know what? I have a couple of things to say because, again, maybe I'm old school. Call me very old school. Call me old when it comes to the investments. I believe in fundamentals. I believe in the future potential. Sure, if it's a new company or if it's a CEO with a good track record. But when you have a CEO who's been repeatedly over and over again over-promising and never delivering, at that point, I honestly question your ability as an individual to assess the validity of your investment choices if you keep thinking that this person going to deliver. And who knows? Sometimes false prophets, it takes time. People just see that over and over again, less and less things happen. They keep promising, they keep prophesizing, and nothing happens. And slowly you shed more and more and more of your devoted followers. And that's going to happen over time. I think that's going to happen over time over here. Do I think it's going to crash immediately? No, absolutely not. I think there's too much cult following and there's too much cult of this idea of the individual who is so smart and the richest person in the world that people are still going to believe it for a few more years. And we're going to keep seeing some of these products. Who knows? I might be wrong and one of these products is really successful, but the track record, to me, in my opinion, statistically shows that it's going to be a failure over failure after another failure after another failure. And gradually people will realize that there's nothing there. The problem is, and mark my words, we'll see in a few years, by the time people realize that they're full of it on this topic, I would not be surprised if there's going to be some new technological development, whether it's AI, something else that pops up, I don't know, quantum computing, that all of a sudden that's going to become the next thing, and Tesla will shut down their Optimus robot factories to start building quantum computers. And that's going to be the next thing. And for the next 3 to 5 years, they're going to be promising everyone how this is going to be the next best thing, while that vesting schedule keeps clocking and they keep selling their vested shares. That's it. I hope this was useful. I know it was more of a rant. I'll see you next Saturday. Peace.